Gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank the gentleman from New York for yielding me the customary 30 minutes, and I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, this entire Republican majority has been one gigantic, complete, total failure. A complete mess from day one with these people in charge. It's an embarrassment. We've got 8 weeks left in the 118th Congress to do our legislative work. 8 weeks. And instead of doing something to make life better for anyone, or hell, even the bare minimum by stopping a government shutdown, we are considering a no-good stopgap resolution that extends funding into 2025. And you gotta love this. You gotta love this. The gentleman from New York is on the floor today trying to convince everyone to vote for the bill, when Republicans cannot even convince their own members to vote for it. I mean, seriously, every minute I look at my phone, I see another Republican defecting. Mr. Speaker, the Republican manager is wasting his time debating me. He needs to be debating his Republican friends who are coming out against the bill in droves. Clearly, they don't have the votes for this awful plan, so why are we wasting time here in this House on a bill that has no chance whatsoever of ever becoming law? Mr. Speaker, this is embarrassing for your side of the aisle. It's mid-September. Republicans said they would get all 12 separate appropriation bills done before we left for the August break. Yet another broken promise among a long list from Speaker Johnson to add on to all the broken promises from Speaker McCarthy before him. And House Republicans are once again showing their deep disrespect for the veterans community by proposing a 6-month CR that shortchanges the VA cost of war toxic exposures fund by $12 billion. $12 billion. That is morally reprehensible and just plain cruel. These are our veterans who we're talking about. How the hell can they turn their backs on our veterans? But to be clear, this is the Republican playbook. A big promise, and it gets broken. A promise like we will have a robust, effective appropriations process, and it gets broken. A promise to continue supporting our veterans, and it gets broken. And now we are headed into another potential shutdown, all because they want to play political games. And to make matters worse, Mr. Speaker, Republicans have jammed the SAVE Act onto the CR. Because why not mix up government funding with more ridiculous conspiracy theories about voter fraud? I know why they want to bring this bill to the floor. They are worried they won't win in November without pushing conspiracy theories. Mr. Speaker, let's set something straight. Non-citizens cannot vote in federal elections. Let me repeat that. Non-citizens cannot vote in federal elections. And if they vote, it is illegal. It is a crime. And guess what? They've done studies. Even conservative institutes say there is no evidence that non-citizens voted illegally in large enough numbers to shift the outcome of any election. We all know what this is about. It's not about voter fraud. This is part of their Project 2025 plan to undermine the vote count and take total control of the government. You see, Mr. Speaker, they want power whether they win or lose at the ballot box. And so they will claim voter fraud whatever happens. The facts be damned. I mean, do Republicans really want to talk about the threat of voter fraud? Well, let me remind the American people, the only ones committing voter fraud in an attempt to overthrow an election are Republicans. We've seen this movie before. Following Trump's loss in the 2020 election, he and his cronies allegedly conspired to overturn the will of the American people by submitting fake electors to falsely certify that Trump won the election. He didn't win the election. He lost the election. And what did those efforts get them? Well, let me tell you. Dozens of people across 4 states have been indicted over this election fraud scheme. So, Republicans want to talk about the threat of voter fraud? Give me a break. They are the threat. This horrible CR will never become law the way it is structured. We really are just here wasting more time after House Republicans failed to do what they should have done months ago. This rule before us today would also bring to the floor 5 bills that Republicans claim will target China. 5 bills that are actually weak on China. 5 ineffective bills that don't get the job done and don't represent a real attempt to actually address some of the very serious concerns we have about the PRC. Mr. Speaker, I've been a critic of China's human rights record for decades, longer than some of my colleagues have been in Congress. Hell, I was sanctioned by the Chinese government in July. I can't travel to China. My wife can't travel to China. My son can't travel to China. My daughter can't travel to China. I can't even converse with any Chinese officials. You know, I've written strong, effective bills that would hold the PRC accountable. And so they don't like me. They sanction me, and I wear that sanction as a badge of honor. But let me be clear, these bills that the gentleman referred to are not about taking a strong stance against China. They're poorly written, weak bills that don't get the job done. It's like they're like written for a press release. Oh, I'm sorry, because they are meant for a press release, not about serious legislating. Believe it or not, we can strengthen our national security. We can stand up to China on human rights, and we can support our veterans and make sure they get the care that they need. We can fund the government, and we can do all of that and more if we work together. That's what people want. They want us to behave like adults. Sadly, Republican leadership is more interested in sound bites and Fox News headlines heading into November than they are about governing. And I would say they would rather put politics ahead of progress. But, Mr. Speaker, Project 2025 isn't just politics. It's weird, it's shameful, and it's deeply dystopian. It's dangerous stuff. Americans are tired of this garbage, and I think they are about to make some very different choices starting November. And with that, I reserve my time.
The chair would remind members refrain from engaging personalities towards nominees for the office of the president, and also maintain decorum on